feels like recovery often isn't, and what actually restores you is sometimes counterintuitive. Let me give you a model to think about this. If you know me, you may know that I train for ultra endurance stuff like trail runs, bike races, random things in the mountains that combine climbing stuff and eating food. One of the things that I learned is called active recovery. Ooh, active recovery. When you do something that's huge and exhausting, like most of you do every single day, it's tempting to want to just sit and not do anything and turn your brain off. But all of that sitting kind of stops circulation, it leaves stress hormones in your bloodstream, it accumulates metabolic waste, it's a whole thing. Instead, what we do is really light, easy movements like just taking a walk, going for an easy swim, or even just turning the legs over on the bike. We're able to move some of that metabolic waste out and let some oxygen and nutrients and other good stuff come in. How does that translate for educators? A lot of the apps have been designed to give you lots of dopamine and cortisol to make you stay on the app. When you have a 90-second break between the 800 million things that you're doing, you may do something like this. Yes. These are the same systems that are built into slot machines, lottery tickets, commission structures for salespeople. This is what's called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. You're basically microdosing dopamine and cortisol, which means you are building a tolerance and you need a little bit more and a little bit more in order to feel good and recovered and rested. And the amount of cortisol that's constantly in your blood is hard to get out. Now you're constantly in, your nervous system is in alert mode, making it even harder to get rest. Let's be honest, Gen Z already figured this out. They call it brain rot for a reason. What feels like recovery often isn't, and what actually restores you is sometimes counterintuitive. Let me give you a model to think about this. There's some obvious stuff that we already do. For instance, stuff that's draining and high energy cost. This is a net spend category. This is usually the stuff you like to do or want to do, but it has to cost you something. We love our job, we love our impact, we love doing it, but it still costs us something. If you are an introvert, going out and being social with people might be something you love to do, but still costs you some energy, and you have to come back and recharge at some point. This is just one of those net spend categories. It's not good or bad, it just means that if you keep doing it, you're gonna burn out. The other category we're gonna talk about, false recovery. Things we think are gonna be restorative, but actually aren't. The worst thing you can do, pick me up, put me on a beach somewhere, because as soon as I look out into the vast open void, I have now created a ton of room for all the 800 million things that I'm worrying about to jump into my mind. So in this case, having nothing to do actually gives me anxiety. But I just want to put that on your radar so that you can see if this is a thing that is actually serving you or not. This other category here, intuitive recovery. This is that category of things we know work. Maybe you just ran 100 miles and you want to take a nap. That is the right thing to do. Your body is telling you exactly what you need. That's intuitive recovery. And this is where we get stuck. There's kind of like this little zone that is like the sweet spot for active recovery, where we're not really spending a ton of energy to get that restorative benefit. And that to me is like the right value trade-off that we want. What am I going to put my brain into that's going to give me something back? Something that will hold your attention and is just sort of distracting your brain, building a puzzle, knitting, playing an instrument, lifting weights, going for a walk, calling your mom. Actually might be the opposite, but it's up to you. You have to figure this out. I actually have like a running list. I'm constantly adding new line items, also adding context around those line items. For instance, if I'm feeling like I'm in a creative slump, not really able to pay attention, that if I just pull out a guitar and I play guitar for 15 minutes, I will usually get a little bit of energy back because my brain is now focused on something completely unrelated to work. It has actually taken an active break away from all the things I'm supposed to be doing, and now I'm able to come back with a little bit more creative energy to go and apply that to expansive and creative problem solving. This is just one example. It doesn't work every time. There's plenty of times where I'm really tired and the idea of pulling out a guitar and trying to put energy into that, it's just not gonna work. What are the things that are gonna work that maybe cost a little bit less of me, but still will give me something? And a lot of the time, you gotta go back to that intuitive recovery step, taking a nap or watching a TV show and being completely immersed in a totally different universe, and then you get to come back and approach your problem. I will just mention that the current research on screen time and cortisol shows that passive social media consumption keeps your stress response activated, while even just something like 5 minutes of outdoor exposure or gentle movement will demonstrably lower your stress hormones and increase oxygen flow to your brain. So take that to the bank and smoke it. So if you have something like knitting or sewing or coloring books, like this video should feel like a resource for people. So please go ahead in the comments and drop in some of the key things that have been energizing to you that may be unintuitive, maybe cost you a little bit of energy, a little bit of attention or focus. At the end, we know it's a net increase in your energy, it's restorative, and you're never gonna stop doing it. If this helped you reframe how you see breaks or restoration or our approach to being sustainable in this world where we have a ton of burnout and a ton of turnover in early childhood education, go ahead, hit subscribe, like this, and you won't miss the next one.